What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and today I am coming at you with a bit of a unique deck. Wanted to revisit the Paleos for a little bit. This is going to be a Paleo DPE. I really wanted to profile this. This was something I'd been testing online for quite some time. Had never really had access to the DPE package until recently. So I figured I'd go ahead, pull this out and showcase it. It's a lot of fun, very unique, and is kind of a Frankenstein of kind of people's best of both worlds for preference in terms of if budget is no option. I've kind of showcased the big budget side of it, and I kind of want to take it a little bit in the opposite direction just to kind of showcase that as well. So before we hop into it, a quick shout out to all of our new subs of the channel from the past week: Johnny, Alexander, JP, Cy Fox, Ali, Justin, Cano, Tran, Daniel, and Pulse. Thank you all so much for joining. If you want to be part of the next sub shout out, please just make sure when you subscribe that your subscriptions are public so that I can see you when you subscribe. And of course, we will be doing our next giveaway when we hit 400 subs, so stay tuned for that. And without all that said, let's go ahead and just hop right into the deck profile. All right, and for the main deck, we will start off with 3 Backjack. This is pretty standard in most Paleo versions at this point, or mainstay trap decks in a lot of ways. So this guy, if it's sent to the grave in any way, you look at the top 3 of your deck, put them back in any order. Then your opponent's turn, you quick effect banish it from the grave as a cost. Look at the top card of your deck. If it is a trap, you can set it, and then it can be used that turn. It just has to be a normal trap. And then, of course, this would not be a trap deck without Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card is absolutely nuts in this deck to be able to resolve this. It protects all your back row or all your face down cards more so from being destroyed by card effects. Then if you use a trap while it's revealed in your hand, you can then set a spell or trap directly from your deck, literally anything. It just gets banished at the end of the following turn. So you can literally use this on your opponent's turn, set Fusion Destiny, and then on your turn you can just go off. It's absolutely nuts. So this card is literally just insane in this deck. So then for the frog piece, triple swap frog, nothing to say here. This is your main engine piece that dumps frogs or names into the grave so that you can go ahead and get your toad set up to have your Omni Negate on board. In line with that, same thing with Dupe Frog. Prefer Dupe Frog over Flip Flop in here just because of the interactions with DPE and the fact that you're going to be popping a lot of stuff on your field. So Flip Flop is not going to stay around as much to generate that removal. But if you want to play that instead of this, you most certainly can. It is just a nice piece of non-targeting spot removal for monsters in the main deck that is searchable if you want to go that route. And then obviously 2 Ronin Tonin, nothing too special here. We are playing some mill cards, but nothing that is going to hit the monster package. So you want a little bit more names in this case, just so you have them on the board as fuel to make Toad or even just make Anaconda. So definitely really solid package there, but that rounds up the monsters. For the spells, there is, oh wait, sorry, we almost forgot, of course, not really monsters, but of course the 2 bricks, the 1 Celestial and the 1 Dasher for the DPE package. But onto the spells. With that, we have triple Prosperity. You obviously don't need to go this hard on this route, but I really like this card just to get to power cards in this deck because you play so many different things like Fusion Destiny and Heavenly Prison and Backjack. It's just cycling into a different name is really powerful in this deck, and just seeing Heavenly Prison does so much, so I really like seeing it as quickly as I can. So in your extra deck, you have plenty of space. So Prosperity is definitely a solid piece here. And then obviously just the 2 Fusion Destiny to get your DPE. Nothing special there. And that's it for the spells. Onto the traps, which is more the meat of the deck. We'll start with the Paleos, of course. We play triple Lanchoila. This is what takes any banished card and puts it back in the graveyard, either from your grave or your opponent's grave, or sorry, you're banished or your opponent's banished, and it can even cycle through face down banished cards as well. One of the few cards that has the ability to do that. So you don't really need to worry about whatever you hit off of cards like Prosperity or different things like that, because you could always focus on banishing waters, right? Put it back with this, and then if Toad gets sent to the grave, Toad can then recycle that back to the extra deck, taking it one step further. So again, the goal is just to abuse the Paleos, put names on board, use that as a way to make Toad and or Zeus, and just control the game from there. We have triple Canadia. This is the Book of Moon of the deck. Really solid pick right now with decks like Sword Soul, Based, anything like that. They need 2 monsters, right, to link into combo, whether it's a Synchro Summon or Hulk, and this really just helps put a stop to that. So In that same vein, we play 2 Dinomischus. You can play more, but you don't always have cards in hand to discard. It's a little bit better once you have the Toad set up. So if you tribute Toad, you can add a card back to hand to make this live if it's not already. So 2 is perfectly fine for this build. And then same in line with that, we play 2 Olenoides. This is just the MST of the deck. Again, this is fine at 2. You could play more, but with a card like DPE in the main deck, you have enough spot removal that you're willing to kind of cut back on a slot here. So 2 is perfectly fine here. And then triple Morella. This is kind of a main focal point of the deck. This is what gets Rise to full height in the grave. We do play the Rise. There's no reason not to. It's just so abusive in this deck, and it's just such a crazy thing. But again, if you don't like the Rise and the full Paleo thing, you can always cut some of those and just play the power Paleos like the Banish, the Book of Moon, the MST, and then play, you know, more things like Solemn Judgment, Strike, Ice Dragon's Prison, whatever you want. But I really like the mill version in this. I think it has a lot of utility and just gets around things that other decks really just can't, even with normal traps. It's just kind of unique, so I really prefer it. But this is what dumps Rise to full height, or just another name if you need it in grave. And then we obviously play the triple Trap Trick, getting us to any one of our normal traps of our choice. Just additional names of everything. Really good card to see. And then last, rounding the deck at 40 cards, we play triple Rise to full height. This is like another key focal point of the deck that just does so much. You banish it from your grave, target a monster on your field, your opponent can only attack that, regardless of whether it leaves the field or not. That means they can't hit you directly, they can't hit other things. So, you know, if you target something that Toad brought out and tribute it for a Toad negate, then they can't attack you. Same thing with DPE, banish, target DPE, and then DPE pop itself and you're protected. It's just really nuts in this deck. Or DPE have this set, pop this, pop something else on their board, and then just lock them out is just so good. So DPE just does so much for facilitating the Rise combo. It's really disgusting. So with that said, go ahead and hop into the extra deck really quick. Pretty standard, nothing too crazy, but we will make sure that we touch it on it nonetheless. Triple Toad. This is obviously your main negate, and as well as your good piece of recursion for putting anything from the grave after it's hit there back to your hand. That's a water. Obviously extra deck stuff will go back to extra deck, but not much to really say about Toad. 2 Opabinia. This is a solid piece that you pretty much go into with your Paleos right off the bat, sometimes even before Toad, just because all the Paleo traps, as well as the Paleo Xyz monsters, have the continuous effect that they are unaffected by any monster effects. So just making this to search a card like the Book of Moon or something, Book of Moon something, attack over, and then use it to make Zeus is really powerful. And then we play 1 Anomalocaris. You can play more than 1 in here, but I think 1 is perfectly fine. You just have to make sure you're conscious about what you're banishing with your Pot of Prosperity. But 1 is perfectly fine. This has the same protection effect. It's basically a Trident. And the other effect is if a spell trap, you know, leaves your field, you can excavate the top card, and if it's a trap, you can add it to your hand. So it's just more free advantage, which is really, really nice. The other cool thing about all of these, right, is DPE doesn't have to pop both things to fully resolve. So you can DPE, target one of your things, target an opponent's thing, and just pop it, and then these will live. So DPE is literally just Trident without having to waste any resources, which is what also makes this deck so crazy. And then the 1 Cat Shark, I was trying to find my Sky Cavalry and I couldn't dig it up, but you can most certainly play a Sky Cavalry over this. I personally would as well. You're just looking for any rank 2 that can't die by battle, basically. And this has the ability to make itself not be able to die by battle. So you can use it to make Zeus. Sky Cavalry is a little better because it has the continuous effect. You don't have to detach, so it can get you a 4 material Zeus for free with the help of Downard. But just be aware that if you have the Sky Cavalry, play it. But if you have everything else and don't feel like shoving out the $30 or so because it's only had like 1 printing, Cat Shark, and there's a couple others that are pretty easy substitutes. So. And then kind of another tech of the extra deck that I've showcased before that I'm just a really big fan of is just Herald of Pure Light. This card is absolutely nuts. It basically detaches a material, takes a monster in the grave, adds it to your hand, and then you have to discard a card. So if you need to discard, you know, frogs into the grave, get a name in there like Rise to Full Height, something like that, you can do that. But the other cool thing about how this is ruled is the then effect. It's not necessarily a cost to discard, so you can activate this effect if you have no cards in hand. And then the other way it's ruled is if you're returning an extra deck monster with its effect, then you don't discard at all. So you can have a full hand, use this effect on summon, detach, put back Zeus, not have to discard anything, hit into something with this, and then make Zeus. So this is just a really great card for recycling. It does a lot, but it's only had a couple printings, so it is a couple bucks, but not really that much. But if you don't have these, I'd recommend, you know, picking them up if you want to play this deck. It just comes up so much and is always a really good opportunity to play in Master Duel as well. This is really what makes the deck viable in Master Duel. Not necessarily that DPE or anything is released, but if you want to play Paleos, this really helps substitute for Toad and Zeus being at 1. It recycles a lot. So and then, of course, the 1 downward, right, to make Zeus. And, of course, we do play 2 Zeus. You can play more, but, again, this is perfectly fine for what it is. And then the last few pieces of the extra deck, we play 1 Phoenix Enforcer, 1 Anaconda, and 1 Link Karibo. Obviously, Anaconda, just using names to get there. You can play like a Link Spider if you want to get an effect monster to use with one of your traps to help get to Anaconda faster. I've never really found it's needed because you're usually making a rank 2 instead. And then just the 1 Link Karibo for Backjack is there. So we'll go ahead and showcase the side deck. I had a few people request to showcase the side deck for builds a little bit more, so I'll go ahead and hop into that. I wanted to showcase something that's a little bit out there and different, especially how this deck's already built. You can tell it's a little unique, so I also wanted to showcase a side deck that's a little bit unique as well. So I'm going to do it in 2 ways. The first set of cards is for going second, and the second set is going first. But the first piece of going second is Nibiru. Nibiru is nuts in this deck, just because, again, all the Paleos have the continuous effect that they're unaffected by monster effects. This obviously doesn't tribute for cost, it's just an effect. So you can essentially wipe your opponent's board of all their monsters and just keep all your stuff for free. So definitely a really cool card. Might even be worth considering maining just because of how that interaction works. So really powerful card in the form of Nibiru. Triple Lava Golem. Setting and normal summoning is not super necessary in this deck. You don't really need to since you have so much back row. So just tributing over for Lava Golem is fine. And again, with cards like Rise to Full Height, where they lock you essentially lock your opponent out of the battle phase, using this as a way to burn in time is super free. So just a really easy way to abuse this. And there's nothing wrong with Lava Golem. And then Fusion Destiny is follow up right after that. So that's really, really good. And then the same abusive route, we play triple sphere mode. Again, normal summon's not needed. You don't have to, but with some of the frog names, you want to, but it's not big of a deal. So you can just obviously sphere mode, get rid of everything. And then worst case, it still comes back to your side of the field, which is just food to link into a card like Anaconda. So that is the going second piece there. We'll go ahead and then hop into the going first cards. We play double the Huge Revolution is Over. This is kind of a neat tech that you may have seen pop up here and there, I think, at events over the past couple of months. Basically, when a card or effect is activated that destroys at least 2 or more cards on the field, you negate the activation and banish it. And it doesn't matter which field, your opponent's field, both. So this is essentially a way to stop DPE. If your opponent has it, you negate and banish the DPE. Gets around Lightning Storm, you know, and a few other niche things. So it's definitely a really cool, neat piece of variance that your deck can play for sure. 2 summon limit. Just slowing down the game state a lot. You can summon multiple Paleos on your opponent's turn, and then when it gets back around to you, you can make an Xyz summon, usually once for something like Toad, and then straight into Zeus after that. You only play 2 because it can kind of hurt in the grind game if you want to spam a bunch of names, but this is still good enough to control the game at your speed, since ultimately, even if you slow the game down, it doesn't really matter because your speed is still more than fine to take care of what you need to. And then last, 2 anti-spell. You know, you're a trap deck. You might as well turn off everything else. So not much really to be said about that. And that's it for the deck profile. Something different, something unique. I wanted to share with some of the interactions between the Paleos and DPE make for a really disgusting combo. But with all that said, thank you again so much to all the new subscribers of the channel. We'll be working on an updated version of this deck to showcase around Master Duel or potentially in person, specifically with the Sword Soul stuff. But for now, we'll just leave you with that. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.